All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Rand Hoppy. I'm the Executive Director of the Jack Kirby Museum and Research Center.
And I'm Tom Kraft, the President of the museum, and we're with
Jeremy Kirby. I'm Jack Kirby's grandson. Hello, everyone.
Hey, great to have you here, Jeremy.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me join. Your guys' voice, I mean, it must be tired now. I don't know how you're doing this.
This is only the first day. We have 2 more days like this.
You have an entire thermos of coffee that you're doing.
It's going to happen, yeah.
Well, my wife said she ground enough coffee to keep me awake for the next 3 days.
Okay.
Good luck. Good luck, gentlemen.
Everything's going relatively well so far. I hope I can get a good night's sleep.
We'll definitely be worn out. That's for sure.
Yeah. So we've just got a few pictures here. So there's some family photos.
That would be yes.
Yeah. What do you remember the most?
So a few things. Obviously being in the pool, they had in Thousand Oaks. An amazing pool. So anyone that's been there will always probably have pool stories. I'd always have to, drag my grandparents in the pool so that I had someone to do something with. But most of the time, they enjoyed going in. So yeah, it was awesome. And then of course the wonderful carpet you can kind of see on the other end. They always had that 70s carpet going on in the house, whether it was gold or blue or whatever.
Nice.
So that definitely leaves an impression.
That's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
yeah. I wanted to share a few of those. My grandfather just working in the studio. That would have been in the 70s. So gorgeous photos.
It gives the sense of the vista that was visible out the window. It was it's just out there. He's at Sapper Street was at the top of a hill, and you could just see for miles.
On the correct day, if you looked exactly through the little pass, you could actually see a little bit of ocean out there, all the way in Ventura.
Oh wow, really? Oh wow,
pretty bad that way, yeah.
Wow,
It's pretty neat.
What a change from him coming from New York City and Manhattan to this, palm trees and beautiful environment and.
Yeah. Absolutely. I can only imagine. It's funny now because nowadays I'm in Orange County, California. I'm maybe 20 miles from their very first house, which was in Irvine. So people kind of forget that they were in Orange County for a little bit before heading up north to Ventura. So I pass by Turtle Rock area every day on the way to work. So or did I was still working at an office. So there you go.
And that was they chose to go there because was one of your grandma's relatives was nearby or something?
I think they were in Mission Viejo or somewhere down here originally. Yeah. It wasn't really, nothing was here, back then. Where I'm now in my house, this was just farmland basically.
Yeah.
So, not much, but it was a little slow. I think there was too slow of a pace probably coming from back east.
Oh, I got it.
Anyway, so
right,
absolutely.
Oh yeah, here we go.
And then something that's they're finishing up right now out in France. Marc Azema and of course Jean Depelle, they're doing a documentary on my grandfather's wartime kind of experiences out there. And I was lucky enough and they were nice enough to invite me out to France, and we went to Normandy and we were all over some of the battlefields there where my grandfather was. So I'm very, very excited to see the finished product when it actually comes out there. And I know the first kind of part of that documentary that they had filmed was Kirby at War,
right?
Filmed a while back. That's on Amazon, I think. So check it out and take a look. They did an amazing job.
It's great.
Amazing creative techniques in their own.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
I think I'm in it. So
that's right. Yeah, right there.
It's great. It's great. And then, so what it was like, the first one was the battle, right? Wasn't it the Bastogne experience, right? But the second one, they're kind of doing his early life or just before the war or something?
Yeah, it's basically kind of like what he would have experienced as he got he set in France. So coming off and going through the battlefields and eventually where he wound up fighting. So it's real neat because it might give a lot of kind of background or credits to really what might have been going on in his mind after the war and before creating some of the, the worlds of superheroes and everything else that we see. Yeah. So it's a neat kind of psychological look. I think that might explain a few things too. So it's very excited about it.
Yeah. We're going to have Jean on tomorrow.
Oh, awesome.
At 5
Eastern
time. So I don't know. I forget what time. I'll be honest. But yeah, we're looking forward to it. We hope the connection works. He's got an iPad, I think, and But we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, he'll be on 9 a.m. Pacific time.
9 a.m. Pacific, Jean, tomorrow.
Right on.
Yeah. There's more. Cool.
Yeah, just wanted to share these. Again, that's actually myself in France there. Where France was first liberated, which was awesome. And then, of course, Stop the Panzers, which featured heavily in that first part of that documentary, but a real personal piece of art that my grandfather had drawn. I think you really see that. It literally, the color of the art there, the color, and it looks like something out of a nightmare. It's the red and yellow. It's very much horrific. Just even the coloring itself brings out that the realness of the of what was happening in his mind. So.
Yeah. We've always, there's been a lot of wondering about this piece as to whether it was something that was involved in a television pitch or a movie or something, and as to how and why it came about. But
it's interesting you brought that up though, because when I first found it, it was actually in a box with other, a few what I would call maybe presentation pieces. You guys might have seen the ROM drawing, RAAM, like that.
Yeah.
Two things that come out. So this was in there with that. I never used the word discarded, but just basically almost hidden.
Yeah.
You with those other and there was like a Dr. Phoebes presentation thing. So that might give you guys a little bit of information of was stored with those type of things, possibly what it was meant to be for. So.
It's a really outstanding piece. All right, that's it. That's it for the slides. Okay, Jeremy, thank you.
I'm a slides there. So that's cool. That's so many pictures, but absolutely. No, I'm very excited. Obviously, to talk to you guys. My grandfather was, a gigantic, piece of my life. Growing up and really shaped not just the person that I wanted to become, but just like a real motivation to really get out there, to work as hard as I can, to take care of my family, and to always keep pushing forward. And I think it's wonderful to be able to talk about them, any day of the week. I love it. 100th birthday, 103rd birthday.
We're in.
November, whatever it is, I'm more than happy to talk. So
that's great. Yeah, us too. So here, but the most important question I think that I have for you is I need you to tell me more about the Goozelbobber.
Yeah, we need to know about him.
We need the secret origin and something, please.
Absolutely. I think the Goozelbopper was created in an attempt to probably shut me up when I was a little kid.
I don't doubt that.
It's such a pain in the behind, I think, for my grandparents. Yeah. So, we would always, like my grandfather and I, we'd always be kind of kidding around and playing. And we just do, we literally just almost, I wouldn't call it like story time, but it kind of was. And a lot of these kind of weird concepts and cool concepts came out of that. And a lot of it was just like, okay, I'm talking to my grandson. He's 6 years old. What the heck is going to keep his attention? So I'm going to think of the weirdest thing that I could possibly think of. And then I'm going to tell him stories about it.
Yeah.
And, and then make it into a comic book and Captain Victory,
I know.
So, so it was cool. So Goozelbopper is definitely, near to my heart. Anyway, actually, I have a drawing of it, not done by my grandfather actually, but a drawing of myself holding a Goozelbopper doll, which I never actually had. But it's like a painting, and I have that in my work area.
That's the Greg Theakston piece.
Yeah,
right?
Greg Theakston, exactly. Yep, you got it. So I have that hung, and it's just a cool little reminder, which is nice. So.
Yeah, I mean, and the back the story that's in Captain Victory for me, like in my comics reading experience with the newsstands and the old comic shops for back issues, Captain Victory was like the comic that got me to really think I needed to go to a comic shop regularly. Because there were some things that were being published in what they would call the direct market.
Yeah.
But it was Captain Victory that was going to get me there every month.
It definitely helps start the ability to do independent content, comics outside the big two,
Perfect.
Yeah. I mean, you have a name like Jack Kirby, you're going to get people to check out and comic stores to start buying it on their own. So it was neat. I'm glad he was part of that. I think that really made him happier, later in life when he saw some of the Image guys and everything else that take up that mantle and Dark Horse and all them. I think he was real proud. And even like Kevin Eastman and the guys over at the Turtles, like my grandfather loved seeing these guys make it on their own, own those characters, keep those universes. So Captain Victory was a big start of that, which is real neat. So.
Yeah. He did a comic. Didn't you do a Captain Victory comic back in the 90s or something?
I did actually. Yeah, I definitely, unfortunately, he had passed before I was at an old enough age to really be able to work with him on maybe a more professional level. But I mean, even in the 90s, I was still young myself. So back then I still wouldn't call it a professional level, but the ability to be able to write and, I love writing. I love creating. And I was able to utilize some of that artwork that was used for the original books. And I kind of tried to repiece it together, to create a brand new story. And it was something I wanted to do. It was an honor to be able to do something like that for him, or for even like just for myself to be able to, I don't feel closer to him, because he'd only passed maybe 4 to 5 years prior at that point. So it was real good to be able to, to do something like that. So it's pretty neat.
Yeah. And so what was your first commercial effort? Was it the bumper sticker?
It was actually, and my grandma pushed me so like she was the inspiration for that, because I was like, Grandma, this was like internet had just kind of came out. I was like on AOL, and I apologized. Emailed. I think I emailed like random, like, hey, you have Jack Kirby in your profile. Like, I'm his grandson. Do you want a bumper sticker? I don't know, 17,
Yeah.
So I mean, I again, like, unfortunately, I can't draw. I'm not an artist in that way, but I do love to create, and I have like, these ideas in my mind. So I wanted to do something like that. And thankfully my grandmother was around. So she basically helped, she grabbed like Mike Thibodeau and all these other guys and had them really help out as far as setting it up. And, there's a lot of kind of just replacing the art together. So, I mean, I couldn't have done it without any of those guys. And we did the bumper stickers. Thousands of them actually were sold. I called up Diamond Comic Distributors and I'm like, hey, I'm Jack Kirby's grandson. I have this idea. They put it out and it was a big hit. It was fun.
That's great.
So it was real cool. And then sadly, my grandmother literally passed maybe 2 months before. She knew that we had already got them distributed. The first orders had come in like 2 months after. And it's crazy. At that time, I know it's old phones, not a cell phone, but I had literally ran to the phone and began dialing the number to tell her that come in and realized. But so it was bittersweet, but I was very excited to have been able to do something like that when she was still around, so that she could see like, okay, he's getting into this type of stuff, he's doing these things, and it was fun to
carrying on the legacy.
Yeah. I mean, between my sister and I mean, there's a lot of grandkids and great grandkids out there. I can't believe no one can draw. Like at this point, I have 4 kids. I would pay them to draw. No. So I'm hoping. We're all hoping that there's going to be another artistic talent. So there you go. But it was neat. It was definitely a neat experience. And then, just kind of, carried on through that. And, and I write not as much as I used to, but I do write a lot, but I normally just kind of share it with family. So I wrote when my first daughter, Hannah, was a baby, I had written a poem. And then my newest daughter, Callie, now which is 18 years later, I got to read that same poem to her. It's like a bedtime story. And it's kind of like the Goozle Bopper, which I actually use the name in my poem. And it's kind of like that. But yeah, so I still write things. It's mostly for fun, but I do enjoy it. Absolutely.
So what is it that you remember the most about your grandma? Is there some particular story that really kind of nails her?
Yeah. I mean, there's one memory. I mean, there's a million memories. There's one big one out there, but it makes me look like a complete jerk. So I won't share that one. But
okay. That's fair.
Darn. Yeah, a 6-year-old kid and my grandmother. She was a saint. But no, for my grandmother, she was very close to me because, of course, my grandfather had passed a few years earlier. When I was 18, I lived with her, up until a few months before she had passed.
Oh,
so yeah. So I was staying with her, and we spent a lot of time together and helping her out. And it's when I think back to her, it's nothing but good. It's nothing but fun and amazing times. And I wish that maybe when I was there, she was maybe more mobile, because I think she would have loved to have gotten out more, but she enjoyed watching Murder, She Wrote, and she enjoyed watching Jay Leno and all the other things. And that was it. She enjoyed her house and her family. And, we had plenty of people, obviously, come up and visit to the house. So she was never lonely, which was wonderful. But she was, I know my sister was talking about her earlier. She's definitely like the Rock. So my grandfather didn't do anything unless he thought it was going to benefit her. You know what I'm saying? Everything he created, everything he did, it was her first, and then obviously family as well, and his kids, as they grew up as well. But everything everything revolved around my grandmother as far as my grandfather was concerned. So it was, she was definitely kind of the rock of the family, I guess, in that regard. So miss her a lot. Absolutely.
So we've got some people saying hi, like Barry Ira Gellers is saying hi. Stefano Pavan in Italy says ciao, and so on. So we've got
right on.
And our friend Paul Gravitt from the UK is asking about a Captain Victory collection.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Oh, you mean collected?
Yeah, hardcover edition.
Can't say much about. I mean, we all know what's going to happen. Everyone loves Captain. If people listening, if you have not read Captain Victory, go back. The double page spreads in those books are insane. I mean, absolutely jaw-dropping.
Yeah.
I have a few here that I've just recreated because I love them that much. Where I have a lot of the the color guides and all the stuff here. So literally, I made myself a 20 by 30 spread of the mind on hand and everything. That's why it's so. Everyone should read Captain Victory, and I do know that it'll happen. It'll happen at the right time, and there's a lot of people out there that want to see it happen, and it'll be great when it does.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So what about your program with the packages? You want to talk about that a little bit?
Your website and everything.
I can. Well, again, and people we don't need to talk about it much here because they'll find it. But I do. I do special Jack Kirby care packages. I have a lot of the old books, a lot of old prints, a lot of stats, a lot of everything, and I love being able to get them out to his fans. DC Comics was nice enough to let me reprint some things in there, which has just been amazing. And DC's always been great about all that type of stuff. So
that's cool.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So because of that, it's just it's stuff that I can do for people. Check them out. We're doing pins and prints and all the good stuff. And they're fun. They're galactic, I would say.
That's right. Yeah.
Outside of the box, it's an awesome thing for Kirby fans, and I love putting them together to get the stuff out to people. So it was neat. I wish there was more stuff kind of left behind for the fans to be able to see. Like Tracy talked earlier about like the National Geographics and all those things. It's funny, like I find it real interesting when I say like a certain actor or actress or like even like a public speaker. I always like to find out what motivates them and what makes them tick. Yeah. So some of that stuff is just as important as the actual art, So like it's knowing that my grandfather loved National Geographic. It's knowing that he was a fan of Norse mythology. So when you're wondering how did he think up these ideas, well, I mean, he loved these ideas. It's Thor. They've been around for years. So he's pulling from all these things that interested him. And what's weird too is obviously he never went to like post-secondary, never went to college, none of that type of stuff. But he had chemistry books. He had these books, and we had microscopes that like he had all these weird like everything else that you would find in like a professor's house or someone that was at least a professional student, someone that's that's in maybe a master's degree program or something like that. And he just had them, and he had them everywhere. And we have. And I still have them. We have pictures from NASA, where they had contacted the government to get, stuff like pictures of the planets and pictures of all these. And I still have them, and it's, from the Air Force or from NASA and all these things. And he was, I'd say, a consummate like learner, and some of the things he grasped. And I imagine that he knew more because he was talking to me when I was younger, but you could see how his brain was working on the creativity process, because there's this one article, and they wrote about these dinosaur fossils, these eggs that were found in China. They were dinosaur eggs. They were whole eggs.
Okay.
Whole entire eggs. And he was like, well, Jeremy, they found the eggs. Like, all we have to do, like, there's stuff inside of there. Like, the dinosaurs are still in there. Like, we can recreate these things. We can, and I'm like, at some point, you're like, I wonder if he understands how this type of stuff works, but like, I could imagine him going off and creating a story. And when you're in like a science fiction thing, like, and sometimes it's just, you kind of put disbelief, you suspend it. You know what I'm saying? So you're just willing to kind of take these things on. And the way my grandfather created things, you'd be like, yeah, okay, cool. That's commonplace. Sure. There's 300 million year old eggs. Yeah. All right, let's do it. Let's hatch them. Let's hatch them and make things. And, there we go. So
and then you have Jurassic Park.
Yeah, exactly. I can imagine what he'd do now with like the internet and seeing all the knowledge. Like all of the knowledge available to him, I mean, I can only imagine what he would have created with even knowing more about these things, So, yeah, it would have been amazing. Absolutely.
And just the I mean, do you have? I know you're younger than your sister, but do you have memories of him at the drawing table and doing any working? Yeah.
Yeah, all the time. I mean, not a majority of my memories, of him at the drawing table, but he was just there so much. And when he was, and I was scribbling all over it and, destroying it as much as I could, unfortunately. But he was always either working on artwork or coloring. I think by the time I was there a lot, he was doing a lot of like collages and was using his Doc Martin dyes and all that type of stuff a lot, and just kind of creating those type of things. I was there around a lot of the animation.
Sure. Yeah.
So, and in fact, when I was there during the summer, they dragged me along, so I'd go to Ruby Spears or wherever it was, here by Universal, and so I was around for a lot of that. I got to go to Disney with them once for the Black Hole, where we went on property when he was working on the wall, which is cool. So it was it was neat. It was fun to watch him work. I obviously didn't appreciate it at the time. I don't think it's hard to fully grasp, I think, what was going into it. Yeah. But then he'd draw a lot of personal things. So I was in preschool. I was in preschool at the local temple out there in Thousand Oaks, and he'd come into the class and he'd draw, the figures for us, and Captain America and all these different things.
That's cool. Yeah,
and that for us. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think at that point it was mostly just him drawing for enjoyment, as much as it was about making a living, too. So, but it was neat to see him work. Absolutely.
Yeah, I bet. Did you have any particular moment where you realized that he was kind of Jack Kirby? Like, you were going to the conventions and you were at the booth, but was there anything where suddenly you were like, hey, wait a minute, like Grandpa's really something?
Yeah, for me, and it's weird because, again, and you're thinking like early 80s here, it wasn't even one of his creations, but when I knew my grandfather was something special, it was Thundar the Barbarian.
Hey, there you go. Sure.
My favorite cartoon. It was my friend's favorite cartoon. I'm like, my grandfather works on that. Like, he had a lot of the concept pieces.
Yeah,
so definitely Thundar and Mr. T.
Very cool.
All of the Spears type, even Scrappy Doo. I think he did some stuff.
Yeah, Scrappy Doo too. Yeah,
So
some crazy stuff. Those animation characters, we have probably 300 scans of them. Some really crazy stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. So that was neat. And then just seeing everything really. Then later was Kenner, probably the toys like 85, 80 for Superpowers. Yeah. So there are a lot of that. Then we got all the boxes of toys, which I actually still have. I should have brought some down, but all like the Calabac Boulder Crusher thing, like airplane, and Destroyer, and and all these toys. So that was a lot of fun.
I could see how that would be the Grandpa.
Absolutely. All right on. But no. Other than that, when I was younger, they were still at the time. There was maybe, stuff wasn't really worked out, obviously, between Marvel and my grandfather, that type of thing. So really, he didn't like to. For myself, anyway, there's a lot of things he maybe didn't bring up quite as much. Sure. I was the jerk kid who brought him, the toy store that everyone talks about. And that
was you.
That was me. That was Toys R Us. 2000 Oaks or KB Toys or whatever.
Yeah.
Jan's Mall there back before they cut it open. But and then we walked down the aisle and it was just, it was tough. It was definitely tough for him, and all that. So, but that's just life, I think. But he was a good sport, and he loved all of his creations. Obviously, we had him all over the walls and everything. He loved. I think every single one of them was a part of him, some more than others, but I think every one of them had some form of a trait of either himself or somebody new, as well, whether it's members or friends, everyone kind of, he kind of went into that melting pot of creativity that he, create things with. So,
he would give people such a great sense of, a real one-on-one connection. Like he was really listening to you and he really wanted to know more about who you were. It wasn't like he made you feel special, but he just made you feel like you were two people having a conversation, that it wasn't like Jack Kirby. He was like, he would put you at ease, and it was a real honest back and forth. And it really, I think that's one of the great aspects of him and his life that we're aware of. And
I think with my grandfather, if you met him, what you saw was what you get. There wasn't. It's just he was just very much present. He was very much, unless he was driving, then he wasn't present.
No.
But no, when you're having that conversation with him, he was always. I feel like he could relate with any type of person, old, young. Yeah. It just didn't matter, and I think that's why I think his stories resonated with so many different types of people from across the world. Is just because there's a real basic level to them. Good was good and bad is bad. I think anyone can kind of relate to that, and he really broke it down a good way. So I think that carried over to when he was interacting with people as well.
Really, really great.
It was neat. I got to see him a lot doing that, mostly at San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Most of the time he was a normal person, but every year at Comic-Con, that's when you'd be like, okay, this is something special. There's, all these people coming up to him.
Right.
And oh, Jack, tell me about this and, and this. And I'd sometimes be like, why are people asking him what that is? Like, what do you mean what his favorite show is? Like, why do you want to know? But, now I understand because, they see what was inspiring him. I get it now. So. But Comic-Con was always a good time. A lot of good memories from there.
Yeah.
And you sat behind a booth with your sister, you and your sister, and
yeah, we'd go. I probably should have helped out a lot more. Again, my teenage years, and I was, I was there to, really try to help out as much as possible, but I wasn't. I think I'd, tell poor Mike Thibodeau, like, yeah, I'll help you set up the booth, or running around, and doing that type of thing. But so God bless them all. So, it was. San Diego's always good. It's one of my favorite cities. In fact, hopefully heading down there today or tomorrow.
Nice,
cool. It's a great place. Great place.
Yeah, we were at that convention, the San Diego Comic Fest in March, right before everything shut down, and we were just like, oh man, the food. Hey everybody, Rand's a vegan. Rand had great vegan food in San Diego. Let me tell you, there's no problems finding delicious vegan food in San Diego.
There's a good one. Absolutely. There's a bunch of them, but yeah. Right.
Absolutely. So what the heck else?
Every other than that, like, it's just, it's awesome being able to kind of follow his footsteps a little and reread. One of the things I've been doing a lot lately, and DC's done such a good job with this too, is just putting out so much of my grandfather's, like, Fourth World, work and that type of thing. So I've had a lot of fun going back through and rereading, like, Commandy and the Demon, and all of the Fourth World I had already read, and Mr. Miracle and that type of stuff. But it's fun to go back to some of these books and kind of reread them. And it's neat. So I love going back through and taking a look at things, and every once in a while I'll pop some books out. I have somewhat of his collection of comics. He didn't save that many, unfortunately. A lot of the DC books, a few of the Marvel ones. I have so some of my my favorite ones, Black Panther 1 and all of those are
cool.
Fun to be able to reread. So
well, we've been doing this summer long Fourth World 50th anniversary live stream thing. So twice a week we're going through issues and stories, and doing it live, and it's been great. I mean, just looking at these things again, there's always something new going on. New appreciation. You may have liked that thing 10 years ago when you read it, but you read it 10 years later and you're like, wait a minute, this is awesome now, and it's always rewarding.
I really like how they went back through and put them back in order of, like, appearance. Dates. I feel like being able to do that is great to see. So you're going from basically like Forever People into a New Gods, and then back into Forever People. And it's neat to kind of be able to see it in both ways, because in the original ones it was just, okay, here's the collected Fourth World, or here's the New Gods books, here's Forever People, here's Mr. Miracle. But now it's neat to be able to see them all. So it's pretty cool. I'm excited for the future of New Gods over at DC and Warner's, and and we're excited to kind of see some of the movie aspects get off the ground out there, and the talent behind it is insanely amazing. So,
it is. I don't know what's happening with Eternals. I keep wanting to see some more, and I think there'll be something soon, but it's really going to be interesting. I admit that I give in to some of the clickbait. It's like, what's going on with the Eternals? I'll show me, But like, you don't really get that much. But,
not much going on right now. So
no.
Probably in a few months we'll hear a lot more.
Yeah.
Hey, Rand,
what?
Somebody's asking about. Somebody from Canada's asking how to donate and wants to know the text number.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. Is it okay? Can I just put this up here? So you text Kirby 103 to 44321. Yes, that's right. Thank you.
The 90s called. They want their animated text back.
So we welcome your financial support. We do have bills to pay. We are an IRS approved nonprofit educational charity. So we welcome your donations. Thank you very much for asking.
Keep doing all those pop-ups. I always get to. I love watching pictures of all the pop-up museums.
Well, this is cool. We haven't done one in a while, and
no.
This is kind of our pop-up.
Get on out here to California. We'll do it. We'll do it here.
Yeah,
somewhere in Orange County.
No, we were seriously talking about doing it this year. We were going to have a dual thing in New York and then bring it out to California, but obviously can't do that now. So
no, but. This is our replacement. When a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, it's like, well, we're getting good at these live streams. Why don't we do something for the birthday?
Yeah.
And then some guy decided, let's do 26 different live hours.
All together, back to back. 2 days.
It's been great so far. We've been having a great time. We did one technical problem we had to cancel, but I think there's just so much love out there for your grandfather that
it's cool to see. I feel like every year, every day, every month, there's more and more fans. There's so many people that it's almost like it's built into their psyche. Like they've never heard the name Jack Kirby, but they know who Jack Kirby is.
Yes.
And they say like the name Jack Kirby, like, oh my gosh, I've known him for years, or I've done this for years, but they never knew it. So it's so interesting, when you get to see it, and then all of a sudden, like, oh yeah, I've seen that name, everywhere. He's creating some of my favorite things, and I have a lot of people too that were like, wow, they used to be a follower of comic books, and they used to remember his name quite a bit, and only recently are they coming back around.
Right.
But it's real interesting. I think in a younger generation starting to pick up on it and pick up on my grandfather, and it's great to see them get involved, which is pretty cool. So who knows, next there'll be a TikTok channel for Jack.
Well, we're looking at Twitch, but we haven't hit TikTok yet.
Yeah, you never know, but it is neat. It's definitely neat. And I'm also glad too that people are starting to see him more so as a creator and less as just an artist.
Right.
Because man, it used to bother me, and I'd never really say anything, but this was maybe 20 years ago, and people would be like, oh yeah, whether we're talking or I'd overhear or whatever, and they'd be like, oh, Jack Kirby, I don't really like him. He's not for me. But their favorite character was Captain America.
Yeah.
Well, he co-created your favorite character, so of course Jack Kirby's for you. So there are people that maybe have a different artistic view, but their favorite characters, like the Fantastic Four, or they love the Avengers, or they love Black Panther. So before, really, even as of 8 years ago, 9 years ago, when his name started to get put on stuff, they only really saw my grandfather as an artist.
Right.
Even though he created or co-created all of their favorite characters, and now you're getting people who are finally thinking of him as a creator, as a writer. Like the San Diego Comic-Con did a few years ago, when they recognized him as this creative writing talent.
That's right. Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with the work that you guys are doing at the museum and getting the word out there and putting on all these magnificent, whether it's a webinar or shows or the pop-ups, all these type of things. But it's awesome to be able to see people really see him for the creative genius that he was, and he was an artistic genius too. But now there's so much. If you're just looking at the art, you're not seeing the whole picture. So you're seeing the art, but you know what I'm saying? You really need to see my grandfather, to see Jack Kirby as a creator, as this immense force for ideas, and then you'll people they'll really understand it. I see that happening more now, and it's been awesome to see. It's definitely real touching to see people that give him credit on not just the artistic side, but on everything. And I think and again, like, the Kirby collector, and everyone's been doing such a great job on getting these different points of view out. In the past, there was one version of history, and it wasn't always that version of history wasn't always, mostly never the full story when it came to my grandfather. And now all of a sudden there's just so much actual, like, not just evidence, but like firsthand knowledge from people that were like, no, like, Jack Kirby was this creative genius. He was feeding so many ideas, not just to his partners that he worked with, but even other creators that were then creating their own, amazing, creations just, because of inspiration. So it's real cool. And I'm a big proponent of that. I definitely, every time I get to talk to people, I hope that they come away with really understanding the full, like, breadth of genius of just being able to create those things, because there's so much that goes into it. And you see that with stuff like Silver Surfer, where he just was drawn, and all these other, amazing ideas, and these characters that were just kind of basically popping out, like literally out of the cosmos, out of whatever it is out there, he was just pull them. Yeah. He literally just pulled these ideas and spit them forward, So
I think it was like Charles Hatfield's book, Hand of Fire, that really helped a certain aspect of it for me, which was the when you think of there's certain people who are in their knowledge travels, right? That they're like, oh yeah, Jack Kirby was the artist of those stories. Right. And it's like, no, Jack Kirby wrote those stories by drawing them. Mm-hmm. And that's a shift that people kind of have to come to, that he was writing it by drawing it. He wasn't, it wasn't like a writer wrote a script and described everything
for
the artist to draw. So absolutely. And that's, I think that's the big challenge for a lot of people, and when they get there, and it's great. But
and luckily, there's so many. What I find so interesting when you want to have like almost like a historical perspective of creation of characters, there's so many cases where my grandfather would basically reuse an earlier idea.
Oh yeah,
it's like, and you look back at Thor, and it's like, well, he had done that like 3 more times, or whatever, before the Tales of Suspense.
Yeah, he had his things. He had his thing.
Exactly. And all these like different things. And you start to see like, well, these elements you see the elements, you're like, well, there's a lot of this character that actually comes from this other character from like 10 years prior, which was just a Jack Kirby character. So there's so much of these ideas that he brought forth, and it's neat because we can see them now, because everything's being studied in a more historical manner.
It is, yeah.
Like,
it's
almost like there's a chain of custody, a chain of evidence. Like, everything is moving forward, and you can really. You guys have done such an amazing job with this at really putting those missing pieces. Found, and you're putting together that puzzle. And I think we're getting to the point now where we have that puzzle put together, and it's basically this straight journey. I won't call it. It's literally a journey of the creation of a lot of our favorite, characters that billions of people on this planet know and love. So it's neat. It's absolutely.
Yeah, it is. It does feel like it's been a, heading in the right direction. And which we were all kind of hoping for and working towards. So it does feel good that it's happening.
Absolutely.
Oh, did you happen to, one of these things that happened the other day? It was early July when we posted some bicentennial battle stuff on our Twitter feed, where he had Captain America mentions the March on Selma.
Yeah.
And it was like, man, to put that in a comic in 1976 it got edited out by the office at Marvel for whatever reason. I don't think Jack edited it. I'll be honest. But it says a lot about the character of Jack, that he would feel that when Captain America was traveling in time and meeting an escaped slave and some slaver patrol, and he's like, "I'll see you in Selma, my friend." It was just a really, really something special, and
absolutely. He definitely, had I would say a very good moral compass, when it comes to a lot of issues like that, and was definitely ahead of the times in a lot of regards. And I think a lot of it just came down to him seeing humanity as humanity, he would always see the inherent goodness in everyone.
Yeah.
Which I think is a lot of times is kind of what got him taken advantage of a lot, because he'd see this inherent goodness. If something wrong happened, and he almost like shake it off, like, yeah, well, that's life, but I'm going to keep going my way because that's all I want to do. So like, I know how to do is to be positive and create things. And if that doesn't always, maybe, it's just, it gets you taken advantage of, a lot of artistic people, it happens a lot, but he was always kind of, I would say, on the right side of history. He was always trying to, move things forward. And even when just talking to him and being with him, is just, everything was very much positive. Everything was with him was very much, there's a right and a wrong way. It was definitely, it was like black and white, and I think he didn't understand sometimes when people would do wrong because it was so blatantly the wrong thing to do. Right. He could comprehend it, and people were like, well, Jack, why would you do this? Or like, why wouldn't you? Eventually he did start to, like, every time he come up with an idea, he'd mail it to himself, and seal the envelope, and, so it'd be like copyrighted or whatnot. Right. I think it took him so long to feel the necessity to do that. Right. Because it was always like, no, if I create this thing, they're going to take care of me. And it's, it's their business. They're going to take care of themselves. So it took him a long time to figure that out. I think my grandma definitely was more ahead of the game on that than.
Right. I also, one of my favorite parts about his personality, of course, having grown up where he did, and hating it so much, and how inhumane it was for people to be living like that and treating each other that way. The gangsters, the corruption, the sweatshops, all that stuff. And then to have gone through World War II, where like there's this like, fascist war machine and the American, the Allies fighting that. And then for him to come out and be so concerned with, business, making money in the field that he enjoyed, that he was good at, romance comics. Fantastic, sure. Right? And then, the Marvel thing, which is a whole nother subject, but then to have the Forever People have this this ghetto-raised World War II vet come out with the Forever People, a positive story about children who are interested in, young people who are interested in light and the goodness and how society can move forward against dark side. That is just, I'm tingling a little bit just talking about the fact that he did that. Like that just, I still am really impressed that he lived the life that he did and was able to tell the stories in such a positive, humanistic way. And still blow our minds with like eyeballs on hands and stuff, right? I mean,
absolutely, yeah. He kept going. You can see it. Like every 10 years was almost like he reinvented his creative process. You see these different books come out, and again, like his ability to pivot for the times. From like you said, before World War II, we have Captain America. He comes back; those books aren't selling. So what do? And Joe Simon, they pivot straight into romance comics. So like boom, and then he just hits the ground running, just like before. And same thing, like that industry closes down. Everything goes kind of haywire. Comes back to timely, and all of a sudden, okay, it's superheroes. All right, let's do superheroes.
Let's go.
You can't.
I'm raising a few baby boomers. I have an idea what the baby boomers might like.
There you go. Absolutely. Every 10 years, every generation, he was just able to kind of hone in on that, process and go and create those for that new audience. It is cool. Definitely. It's very rare to find some of that. Normally, including myself, change scares us. It's scary. For him, like, he saw it as an opportunity, evidently, because he thrived off of it. Every time they were saying, the creative process ballooned, which is awesome.
New opportunity. That's the way he looked at it.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Wondering if we have any more questions. Oh, we have Crackles from Paris. Fantastic. Good to see you, man.
Bonjour.
Crackles.
We saw him in Paris many years ago.
Yeah, he was really nice.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Oh, here's a nice comment from Jim Mafood. Yeah. So
absolutely, I remember that. Yep. Giant cake. Yeah.
I was there. I actually met you in 1992. When I interviewed your grandfather, but I was, who knows where I was. I wasn't even aware of the birthday party. So whatever.
Absolutely. I was probably complaining like, Grandma, why are you dragging me to this thing? God.
I want to go and play video games.
Right. Well, we're at 51 minutes. I think we're gonna close it up. That was fantastic, Jeremy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. We're gonna have the after party, right?
We're gonna have a toast party. I don't know what we're doing. We've invited a bunch of people. We've probably forgotten to invite some people. It's just chaos. We're doing the best we can. But if you'd like to join us in a few minutes, you're more than welcome. We're just gonna toast your grandfather and thank the universe for sending him our way, or something like that.
It'll work.
Yeah. All right, man. Thank you. Have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye. Take care.